Trump when these threats materialize, whether this one is actually real or not, but still, a man with a gun near the former president. I think that that gets out some sympathy for him, and that he presents tough. So in troubled times, you need a really tough leader. So I think this buttresses Trump short term. But we are in short-term days, less than 3 weeks to go.
Now, on today's episode of the Story podcast, the Sunday Times' Megan Agnew takes us through the rolling hills of San Francisco to tell us how a young Kamala Harris conquered California. Harris started her career there as a prosecutor, but outside of the courtroom was where the real work was happening.
She was known for being this sort of more glamorous, high-profile socialite among an office of otherwise, quite worthy prosecutors. It's not totally normal for the prosecutors to be in the Monday morning gossip column of the San Francisco Chronicle at some party in Los Angeles with the maybe soon-to-be next mayor. But she was, because around that time she started dating Willie Brown, who was Speaker of the Assembly in California and was running to be mayor of San Francisco.
I was senior features writer for the Sunday Times, Megan Agnew, and you can hear all the gossip Megan hoovered up, including a rock-themed celebrity pool party where Nancy Pelosi doled a Rolling Stones t-shirt on today's episode of The Story. You can find it for free wherever you get your podcasts. Meanwhile, polling day in America is just 3 weeks tomorrow. The polls still show Harris with a very narrow national lead, while the 7 key battleground states are pretty much within the margin of error. Bruce Wolpe worked with the Democrats in Congress during President Obama's first term. He's now a columnist and a senior fellow at the University of Sydney's United States Studies Centre. Good morning, Bruce.
Great to talk with you, James. Thanks for having me in.
Has Kamala Harris's momentum stalled in recent weeks?
It has, and people were feeling, really optimistic, throughout the past 2 months since she took the field, consolidated the party, a lot of charisma, a lot of energy, and she's doing well, but not well enough. She cannot gain enough votes to put Trump away. She, as you said, the headline national figures, they don't elect the president, but just show sentiment. ABC News, 50 to 48 Harris. NBC, 48-48. CBS, 51-48 Harris. And in the key states, the swing states, the 7 that will decide the election, it's dead even. But at the same time, there's a feeling that Trump has consolidated his vote, that it's harder than ever. They're going to turn out. And Harris is lagging in 2 important demographics: Black voters, particularly Black men, and Latino voters. She's short of where Biden was 4 years ago, and Biden barely won.
I suppose that raises the question then, Bruce. Can she do anything in the 3 weeks and a bit until the election, until polling day, to regain the momentum?
In an overt way, yes. You just get out there, you campaign, you have your messages, your media markets, podcasts, all that stuff, and she's doing that. But she also has a machine. She raised $1 billion in 3 months. That has not been done before. She can cover all the advertising she wants on all the platforms. And she has a much larger field operation in the key states and some other places that could yet surprise than Trump does. And they're being worked. The head of the campaign, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon, ran Biden in 2020. So she beat Trump before. She knows what it takes to beat him again. So under the surface, yes, there are all these assets which, if deployed correctly and execute properly, yeah, she can still win. But on the surface, it looks like troubled waters.
On the money point, though, I mean, it is interesting. Obviously, speaking from a British perspective, the amounts of money we're talking about when it comes to US elections are just mind-boggling. But, in 2016, Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump 2-1 and did not win the election. So, yes, of course, you'd rather have the money in the bank to spend. But does it really make that much of a difference?
It does make a difference. But remember, where she didn't spend it? Wisconsin. She never set foot in Wisconsin. And so, she lost that and the other industrial states. Harris is covering those bases and more. She also has, where Trump is gaining among certain demographics, people of color voting, Harris has her assets as well, particularly women, particularly on the issue of abortion rights. And abortion rights are on the ballot in 2 important states, Three: Arizona and Nevada, swing states, and Florida. Who knows? So again, I do think it's at another level, and less of a focus on her as a black woman and more as a focus on let's turn the page on Trump than Hillary presented in 2016.
Obviously, we're into October now, Bruce, and there is this tradition in US presidential politics of the October surprise, of some big bombshell in the weeks leading up to polling day that fundamentally changes the race. Now, sometimes what we think is going to be an October surprise that ruins things for one candidate doesn't actually. Of course, in 2016, you had the Access Hollywood tapes, which a lot of people thought would end Donald Trump's hopes of winning the presidency, and it didn't in the end. But do you think we may get an October surprise still in the 3 weeks to go?
I think one is underway on foreign policy, the war in Gaza and now Lebanon. And as we speak, that has risen to another level of hostility today with missiles flying into Israel. And then in a key state, particularly Michigan, which has a very high, relatively speaking, Arab American and Muslim American vote, they are really angry. And they will not vote. Many of them will not vote for Harris. They may stay home, but that cuts the margin that the Democrats have traditionally had in Michigan. She has to win Michigan. Similar story in Wisconsin to a degree. So that could be the October surprise that really hurts her campaign.
That's a really interesting point. Just finally, Bruce, I wanted to get your thoughts on what happened over the weekend at this Trump rally in California. A man was arrested with guns and fake passes. There is debate over whether this could have been a third possible assassination attempt. The authorities seem to be downplaying that suggestion. Either way, though, it just strikes me that it is worrying how normalised these threats of political violence have become, and that, you hear these stories and they're met almost with a shrug. And that's a dangerous place to be in. What is your response when you hear stories such as this?
Well, you walk down any street in America, you don't know who's carrying a gun and who's not. I think Trump, when these threats materialize, whether this one is actually real or not, but still, a man with a gun near the former president, I think that that gets out some sympathy for him, and that he presents tough. So in troubled times, you need a really tough leader. So I think this buttresses Trump short term, but we are in short term days, less than 3 weeks to go, and so I think this really helps him consolidate the very amped up base that he has.
Bruce, always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
You too, James. All the best.
Bruce Wolpe there, former Democratic staffer who's now a senior fellow at the University of Sydney's United States Studies Centre.